Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 646. Today, I'm talking with Ahdoot. We focused on discussing the impact of strong off-premise infrastructure on the delivery of value, the impact on the bottom line. Ahdoot is a successful entrepreneur focused on building IT businesses through meaningful relationships. His flagship company, Colocation America, was founded to serve as the premier data center provider for IT solutions looking for a secure, scalable IT. Ahdoot is a highly respected business development expert who has helped many technology companies achieve great success. Ahdoot received his Bachelor of Science in Philosophy. Ahdoot received his Bachelor of Science in Physiology and Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from UCLA, his Master's in Biotechnology from NYU. Are you ready to talk off-premise infrastructure and mitigation of risk? It's time for the interview. Ahdoot, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ahdoot, you're in sort of I'd actually say an almost unenviable position given the world we're living in now, the change in the economics of the world, and because of COVID and because of the things that have been happening, they've been refocusing on cost containment. How can the whole idea of off-premises infrastructure improve cost containment?
In many ways. So considering we use so much energy, our cost is a little bit, or much lower than your average, office space and whatnot. So cost is definitely a big factor. Number two, and I think to me, the most important factor is the redundancy. So redundancy in our business is basically when you have redundant power, so there's no downtime power-wise, and also the internet, considering you bring it into our facility. So we have multiple internet connections and multiple power feeds, and the power feeds are behind batteries. Absolutely no downtime when you do come and co-locate within our facility.
Mm-hmm. Why is it important in 2020 to be talking about off-premises infrastructure? I've been in this business for a while. There have been, I worked in an IPC back in the days of EDS. Wow. So this isn't uncommon, but it's been growing and it's more important now. Why in 2020 is this an important topic?
I guess, just like we are on Zoom calls nowadays and we don't have to go to the office anymore and everyone works out of their house. I guess it's a new 21st century thing. But at the end of the day, all these lines, all these connections, the entire internet lands in facilities where we operate.
As a software developer, and most of my listeners are developers up through CTOs and maybe a smattering of CIOs in there. If you were going to tell them about off-premises infrastructure and they were woefully ignorant for a second, the sales obviously is, hey, it's more secure, it's redundant, those sorts of things. How would it affect how they did their work? Would it be transparent? Would it make software development and maintenance easier? Are there relationships into that end of the business?
I would say yes and no. I mean, at the end of the day, we're strictly the infrastructure. We're the cement in the ground where everything happens. So as long as it's up and running, anything else that you're doing can easily be done remotely. So again, you have your servers, you don't want them to go down in the middle of the programming or video broadcast or, someone doing their homework and whatnot online. So our job is to just make sure everything is up and up 100%.
When it comes time to, I'll give you for instance and see how it would be handled in an off-premises sort of manner. We're developing a brand new application, and this morning we wake up and say, you know what, we're going to integrate the whole thing, make a copy of it. We need to provision and move it to another box so that we can test it while we start working on something else. another version of it. Let's say the first one's the MVP. This one, the next one will be MVP plus one. Does having something off premises in an operation like yours, does it make it easier to spin up and spin down new versions or new pieces of infrastructure so that we can have separate and distinct environments?
Yes, considering we already have the infrastructure. So all it is, you're pressing a button, getting more CPU, more RAM, and pressing another button and reducing it. Mm-hmm. So yes, the infrastructure is there, solid, up and running. So you're just either increasing more or decreasing less.
If you were new to this business and you could reach out and talk to you today. So let's say you're just about to start, new in the industry. What would you do if you were to tell yourself, one major hint that you've learned along the way in terms of, building a business as someone, driving off-prem infrastructure, what would that piece of advice be?
Would we want to go ahead and build off-prem infrastructure? We don't. There are companies that go out and, they have their own infrastructure. Perfect example, Google, Yahoo, basically just take over that infrastructure and operate it. So we're not the builders, we're the operators. Are there companies out there that are going to go ahead and build? Sure. It's a very expensive process. Just because of the redundancies, you have to ensure of the connectivity, so forth and so on. So building it, just like anything else, sure, can you build a building? Of course, but you have to have the right team behind you to go ahead and build it for you. Would we go out and build? Again, not our cup of tea. Would other companies want to go ahead and build? Sure, if you have, millions of dollars behind you and the knowledge, definitely. But at the end of the day, why build it if there are companies like us who not only operate it perfectly, but offer service on top of it, like the full 24/7 support, and it's just there. So you can just literally sign up with us and you don't have to go through the whole shebang of, going and building an entire, data center where you can put your stuff, where you can just literally roll it in and you're up and running in a few minutes.
Why did you end up going down, for you personally? So why did you end up going down this avenue of the business versus, being a CTO at an organization and running, let's say, American Express's internal infrastructure?
Good question. As much as we're a pretty sizable company, when you get to that level, it's just very tough to get things going. You have to check with this boss and that cubicle and, run it up a chain. With us, we have a great one-on-one interaction with our customers. So you don't just get a customer name and, you work through the channels. We work on a personal basis. Now, again, when you go to these big corporate companies, and as much as, sure, I wanted to get X amount of dollars working for, let's say, American Express as their CTO. Not my thing. I get very personal with every one of our customers. So being in my position, I always enjoyed actually talking to the people and seeing exactly what they want and advising them to do it or not do it, or just telling them, what I would give them suggestions of what to do. So I actually enjoy interacting with people more within our own company than to be a little, dot within a humongous company, basically. That just at the end of the day, you got to make quota and numbers and so forth and so on and, move forward, basically. So I thoroughly enjoy like where we stand. I like to be hands-on more than just, hey, suit and tie, come in, have meetings and this and that. And there's really not that much of interaction with your daily customers moving forward. Mm-hmm. So we are very on corporate America.
Interesting.
With all the lack of better words.
No. It's that paints a very interesting picture. Who shouldn't use the kinds of services that you deliver?
Who shouldn't use it? As long as you're on the web, you're using us. So we are in the back making sure your connection is up and running. So there's not really who shouldn't be using it, is who should be using it and why they should be using it. So as long as you're online, you're somehow connected to us, being the backbone of the internet.
Okay. So if who shouldn't is the wrong question and who should is the right, who should? Is it just everybody or?
Pretty much everyone that's on the internet. Us being on this call right now, the line is being routed over the internet, and us being the hub of the internet, you're going through a neighbor of ours or our line or someone else that is in that same building where we're transmitting this connectivity of us talking back and forth. So we're practically the backbone of the internet.
Mm-hmm. So it always intrigues me when you get to scenarios where it is the basic infrastructure, and we're talking about basic infrastructure. How does a firm like yours make money?
How do we make money? Great question. We're basically a high-tech landlord. Funny, everyone asks me, what do you guys do? And it's really hard to explain, data center and lines and air conditioning, cooling. So instead of you having your, you said infrastructure built out, away from your closet at the office, basically, where your infrastructure is obviously expands over your closet, and you do need that excess bandwidth and excess power and space. We come in and we give you that much power and space and connectivity, and you're basically leasing high-tech real estate from us. Mm-hmm. And that's where we make money.
Okay. Interesting. Is there a pressure? Do most firms feel a pressure to try to constrain that cost? Obviously within some degree that every firm has to, but is that the driver that takes them to you, or is it the fact that they're trying to manage something they don't quite understand?
How do I answer that question? It's managing it, basically, that they don't understand. And when I say managing it, when you're at your own office, per se, if the power goes out, which power obviously has always ups and downs, bandwidth always has ups and downs. So sure, you can go bring in 20 different providers. It's going to be costly, as if there's even 20 providers in that area that your office is in, and you bringing in battery backups and generators and so forth and so on to make sure your power is 100% up and running. Is it doable? Sure, if the resources are there, but managing it, that's a different animal by itself. We go through all sorts of regulations of making sure, retina scan, hand scan, as far as security, down to the cold aisle versus the hot aisle, how much cooling is supposed to be there, how fast the connectivity, the routing that we do, everything and anything that we do, at the end of the day, comes down to redundancy. So can you build it yourself? Sure you can, if, again, those resources are there. But why would you if there's already a facility that does it for you? It's like saying, can I go grow fruits in my backyard? Sure, you can grow maybe a tomato, potato, whatever it is out there in your backyard. But, when you want to go shopping, you want to go to a supermarket, but everything is already offered to you.
Point taken. So, it's obviously, having some experience, the amount of different specialties to do all those things, so it's not only, managing it, but it expands out from there. You have to hire the right people. You have to manage those people.
Sure.
So it expands from there. Generally, people come to you because it's, because they would rather focus on other things. Is that, again, I keep coming back to, in my mind, is that a cost play, or is it it allows them to focus play? And maybe,
both.
Both. Why both, do you think?
Cost play, again, building your own infrastructure, you're talking millions and millions of dollars. So there's your cost. And as far as, again, going back and upkeeping it, that's a different story by itself. That's a different animal by itself. Like imagine at your house, you probably go clean your filter, I don't know, once every 2-3 years. With us, it's weekly. And we're not talking one filter. We're talking, 20, 40 ton air conditioning units that are all around the facility that has to be maintained to make sure the air is being filtered and its cooling is there and the redundancy is there. Like our batteries get changed every so often. Like we have, machines that read up on it. Hey, battery number so-and-so just died. You pull it out, you put one back in. Not to say anything is going to go wrong, but just in case, there's a power outage, which happens all the time. Batteries are already there. You're not going to feel the power being out. And if the batteries, are running, let's say for like 10 hours and they're running out, we have generators behind it. So you will never have any sort of a downtime as far as a power outage is concerned. And that goes with our bandwidth as well, and the cooling and everything else.
Before we start to wrap up, what keeps you up at night?
I mean, nothing. I sleep pretty well, I guess. But as far as anything, it's that network outage. God forbid if anything goes out. I mean, our guys are there 24/7 to make sure they're up and running. So that's the only thing, like being worried that, oh my God, network outage. But, network outages happen all the time. And our guys are there to make sure if AT&T goes down or level 3 goes down or Verizon goes down, we still have all these other providers that we bundle that it goes to the other fastest path.
How did someone come up with the plan to deal with all those redundancies? So, I mean, it sounds like an amazingly complicated scenario that you've had to go through and say, what if? How'd you guys do that?
20 years of being in it. I don't know. I mean, it's a learning curve. We used to have literally a mattress at the facility where guys would just literally pass out right there and then because they had to be up 3 nights in a row. And now, since we have 24-hour staff and we got shifts coming in and going, and they're just on top of their game, and everyone has their own specialty.
Albert, this has been magnificent. If you woke up tomorrow morning and somebody handed you your morning beverage of choice and a magic wand and gave you the power to change any 2 things impacting off-premises infrastructure, what would it be and why?
I'm so sorry. One more time. What do you mean by changing it?
Change change any 2 things that impact it, whether it's, the business model, whether it's people's acceptance of it, complexity. Are there any 2 things that you would just say, hey, these are pains in my behind. Let's make them be different.
No, I mean, honestly, we're so immune to this right now. We've been doing it for so long. If anything, it's actually exciting for us considering technology changes on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So it's a learning curve for us. Amazing. So I wouldn't change anything about it. It's not, we don't have your typical everyday, hey, let's get up, put a suit on, go to work and come back. Every day is different for us.
14 years of asking that question. I don't think I've had that answer. That's magnificent.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So before we break, how can people continue the conversation?
How would they continue or why would they continue?
Why don't you answer both of those?
Again, you don't have to deal with it. If the supermarket is right there, and I just made this up, hopefully it makes sense. Why would you want to go ahead and set up an irrigation system? Why would you want to go ahead and, grow 2 fruits, then down to 100 and have a farm where you can only grow 4 things, where you can literally walk into a supermarket and just grab a cart and do your own thing, do your shopping and get everything you need.
It's a good metaphor. How would they continue the conversation with you? How can they find out about this? How can they continue the conversation with you?
How can they continue the conversation? I mean, with us, we're at a point that we don't even advertise. Our name is out there. Our customers literally go out there and just bring us customers. So,
I mean, at this point, I'll open up the platform, 2 to 3 minutes. You can promote anything you'd like.
Okay. Well, Colocation America, that's Colocation America altogether. And we've been in business for the past 20 years. We are the backbone of the internet. We specialize in data center infrastructure. That's where you bring in your equipment, leave them in a controlled environment where we make sure it's 100% fully stable as far as power and connectivity and cooling. Or if you don't have your own equipment, what we do is lease infrastructure to you. So either you can bring your own infrastructure, which is called co-location, or you can come in and lease infrastructure from us, where we put up the servers and the switches and the routers, and we build exactly what you need to run your business.
Super. Which model has the most uptake?
They're both like different animals. It's like leasing a car or owning a car. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do.
This has been marvelous. I enjoyed this. I've learned a lot. Thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Remember, the Software Process and Measurement Cast is the proud media sponsor of 2 upcoming events. The Global Scrum Master Summit, the week of May 17th, link in the show notes. Get involved, buy a ticket, and learn. The second, and the one coming up very soon, the week of April 26th through 30th, is the DevOps Online Summit. Tick-tock! The DevOps Online Summit is nearly here. During the week of April 26th through 30th, Tom Henriksen and crew will deliver the 3rd summit. The goal is to bring together 5,000 DevOps professionals. Get a ticket, link in the show notes to both the DevOps Online Summit, really coming soon, and the Global Scrum Master Summit, the week of May 17th. In Reread Saturday News, Chapter 9 in Fixing Your Scrum Practical Solutions to Common Scrum Problems by Ryan Ripley and Todd Miller addresses the ubiquitous concept of sprints. I have observed teams using weekly sprints. I've even run into a team doing a 6-month sprint. By the way, that did not end well, and I wouldn't argue that a 6-month anything is a sprint. More like a half marathon. Everyone is sprinting. Todd and Ryan address some of the more critical anti-patterns in this chapter. I highly recommend this book. There's a link in the show notes to buy a copy. That'll help support the podcast and obviously the authors. In the next Software Process and Measurement Cast, this is broken record time. Work entry is the single most important process for any team's health. Teams with little to no control over work entry will always be running around like their hair is on fire, which actually might be more pleasant. We will also have a visit from Susan Parente, who brings her Not a Scrumdimentalist column to the podcast. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?